Okay, guys, now once everybody's put their information in here, you're going to wind up with something like this. All right, you're going to wind up with a whole bunch of different students' names. You know, John and Susie and Mike and Bill are all going to have their name over here. And what's going to happen is it's going to be like, okay, well, now what are we going to do with the data? Well, there's two things we can do with the data. And what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you graph out the data. What you should notice, first thing you're going to notice, I'm just going to hit where it says temperature Kelvin, and I'm going to go data, sort this column A to Z, and you notice that, okay, right here we've got the heat. As the temperature in Kelvin increases, you notice that the volume, the length in centimeters, now we're going to consider the tube as a constant. All right, so the length in centimeters is directly related to the volume because we're pulling that plunger out. You'll notice that as the length goes down, the temperature goes down, and it goes down at a fairly regular pace. So now the question is, at what temperature will this length go down to zero? Well, we have zero volume. All right, you notice when you get 105 degrees Kelvin is very, very cold. That's like 260, it's a little bit less than 260 degrees. It's 160 degrees below Celsius, zero. That's very, 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 very cold. All right, this here, that temperature there is actually just barely below freezing. Okay, so I'm actually going to ask you guys to see if you can get a range of temperatures, some that are very, very hot, some very, very cold. What happened when scientists were able to do this, what they did is they would take containers of gas with a plunger in it, and they would lower the temperature. They lowered the temperature about as low as they could get, which would probably be about 100 degrees below Celsius. But they also heated it up to see how big everything would get, would see how much they could increase the volume. All right, so the first question is, okay, well, does that thing cross the axis? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these two columns, and you notice I'm doing everybody's data together. Okay, what's happening is going to become pretty obvious in a second. I'm going to go to Insert, a chart, and you're going to notice I have all sorts of different possible charts. I'm actually going to go with a scattered chart like this. Okay, and those are really kind of handy. And what I want to do with this chart is I'm going to customize it. And I'm actually going to put a line of best fit. Now you have to drag all the way down where it says trend line. Is this trending down? Where is this going to wind up crossing the axis? So if I do the trend line and I say I want a linear trend line, you're going to notice it draws what's called the line of best fit through. And you notice that it actually doesn't, in actual fact, the length of the container gets to zero above, okay, I would say if you take a look at that, that's probably about 20 degrees Kelvin. So that means from all of our data, everybody's data, the group data is off by a little bit, all right? But it was a pretty good rough estimate of Kelvin, but it actually says that, you know, the volume will reach probably around maybe 20 degrees Kelvin. All right, so let's see how your data did. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to figure out what your data looks like. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually say, okay, well, I want to look at just individuals. Now, you notice everybody's data is all mixed up over here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click in this column, any cell in this column, and I'm going to go Data, Sort, and you go, we're going to, you know, student 1, student 2, student 3. And I'm not going to do my own data. I'm going to do student 1's data. And I'm going to say, geez, you know, I'd like to create a sheet just for student 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click down here. You cannot see this. That is stupid. I can't believe I did that. I'm going to move this up. You notice how there's a little plus sign there? That didn't do it. If you notice that little plus sign says, okay, I want to put another sheet. And in this sheet, I'm going to actually bring the information over. So I'm going to go click. I'm going to bring this first column over. I'm going to go Edit, Copy. In this sheet, I'm going to click on the 1 at the beginning of the row, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. And that's going to put all of the different columns there, so they're all where they're supposed to be. Then I'm going to go back to the form responses, and I want student 1's responses. So I'm just going to click, and I'm going to drag all the way across so I get all the student 1's responses. And I'm going to go Edit, Copy. And what I want to do is right below here, student 1. Now, student 1 presumably will be you. I'm going to click right here underneath where it says timestamp. I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Boom. And you notice that everything goes in. So now I want to see what happened to this kid's stuff. Okay, I want to see what happened to this data. How does this kid's data look? So I only want to do a graph of student 1. This is going to be your data you're going to do with it. You should probably have at least 5, maybe as many as 10 different measurements. It'll be better if you have more measurements. I'm just going to click these 2 columns. I want to measure length of the container versus temperature Kelvin, because my assumption is when you get to 0 Kelvin, you should get to a container that has 0 volume. I'm going to click on those, and I'm going to go insert a table, or a chart, I should say. And I want to pick one of these scatter graphs. And what I want to do is I want to customize it for this student. And I say, okay, well, where is that going to cross the axis? And I'm going to put in a trend line and drag all the way down, customize all the way down, do a linear trend line, and boom. And you notice this particular one came out much better. Okay, as it got colder, as the temperature came down over here, temperature get closer to 0. The length got smaller and smaller, and in actual fact, it crosses at exactly 0. Okay, so this one's pretty good. So I'm going to insert this right into this thing right here. So now I got my information. So that's what you guys are going to do. Okay, you guys are going to graph all your own data. All right, so I'm going to encourage you to record your data, and enter into the spreadsheet. Then you're going to go and you're going to look at the entire spreadsheet. You're actually going to graph everybody's data together just to see what happens. But then each individual student is going to graph your own data, and you're going to write up a little mini lab report on this. It's not going to be anything too scary. All right, so that's it for this assignment. Thank you very much.